So Rwanda was given $7.5 million by the Bill Gates Foundation to build an AI scaling hub. Why do you think Rwanda, what competitive advantage they have over every other African country? So why them?
So I'll just be blunt. It's visionary leadership. That's the competitive edge they have.
We reward the people that are able to get to the top of the food chain.
Yes.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about who's the smartest guy in our networking or information communication and technology society. It's who's able to lobby for interest with the highest structure of power.
The only thing we've never got to answer is, for instance, if I'm a billionaire, do we have an ecosystem or a structure in place where if my money is put in within that ecosystem, it will really benefit me? Because again, just like we've touched on, the leadership is not as visionary, and that means a lot of people are looking for quick fixes.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening from wherever you are. Welcome to the AI in Tech Roundtable brought to you by AXA Africa. I hope you're excited as we are to start the conversation. And I'll dive right in. So, Rwanda was given $7.5 million by the Bill Gates Foundation to build an AI scaling hub. Why do you think Rwanda, what competitive advantage they have over every other African country? So why them? And most importantly, could Kenya have been it? Could we have afforded whatever they had to give for them to get that funding? And I'll start with Craig.
Okay, wow. Okay, right to it. Okay, so I'll just be blunt. It's visionary leadership. That's the competitive edge they have. Now, when you look at Rwanda and the way they approach tech and how they approach development in general, their president, love him or hate him, has always put people who are very qualified in those positions, and he's taken a step back himself. He has given autonomy for example, the Minister of ICT. She's brilliant.
Absolutely.
And when she is empowered to make decisions by the president, she has not held back. As opposed to what I see here in our country, where it's politicians who are put in those positions as opposed to technocrats, people who actually understand what needs to be done and have the authority to do it. Yes, we do have permanent secretaries, principal secretaries who are the technocrats, but they still have to report to a minister who's a politician.
Right.
So the politics in our country sometimes does get in the way. That is my opinion. But when I juxtapose our country and Rwanda, that is the difference. They are not encumbered too much with the politics. They are more concerned with getting things done and who is the right person to get those things done.
Right.
And that's it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ted, do you feel that, technocratic leadership versus democratic leadership? Do you feel like if we're able to have technocratic leadership, then we can get those $7.5 million?
I mean, I'd argue that even in a democracy, you're still able to achieve those goals. But I think you mentioned something here. It's visionary leadership, right? So tokenism in our society looks very different, right? We don't reward the people with the greatest level of skill in specific areas. We reward the people that are able to get to the top of the food chain.
Yes.
That's what we do, right?
Yeah.
So it's not about who's the smartest guy in our networking or information communication and technology society. It's who's able to lobby for interest with the highest structure of power. Those are the people that we put in charge. And of course, that sets us on a back foot. Because I'd argue at this moment in time, we already have nearly equal footing with the $7.5 million investment in an AI scaling hub in Rwanda. There's an Italian project or a joint venture between the Kenyan government and the Italian project to build an AI hub in the heart of Nairobi, right? And we've also seen companies like Google and Microsoft come in to want to set up green energy for AI, right?
Yeah.
They're leveraging our geothermal prowess and looking towards that to be the future of energy for artificial intelligence. But again, progress is always slow here. Why? There's too many people who are trying to figure out how does this benefit my portfolio? How do I use this as sort of there's a term for it, and it's political capital to some degree, but also needs the thing that gets me to move forward, the traction, right? Until we overcome that as a hurdle, as a society, I think we'll always be first in the water, last to finish.
Oh, okay, Nick. Well, we are talking about funding from partnerships from Italy or from Bill Gates Foundation. Do you feel like if we get to a point, or can you state a year in mind where you think, well, Kenya will go to support itself and not require those grants or investments or partnerships to the scale of investing in AI or building AI hubs within our own country?
I think that's one of the things which has really driven a lot of things we're doing, for instance, through Setup Garage. So think about it, when we had USAID running, right? A lot of things were running smoothly until the funding was retracted. And that affected a lot of individuals and interested parties. So what that means is, if we have an economy that is funded majority through foreign direct investments, what happens when those investments are retracted or withdrawn from our ecosystem? Then the other question becomes, so if we are not rely on them, where we're supposed to get the money from? And I think it's not that we don't have people who have resources. The resources are there. There are a lot of people with a lot of resources. The only thing we've never got to answer is, for instance, if I'm a billionaire, do we have an ecosystem or a structure in place where if my money is put in within that ecosystem, it will really benefit me? Because again, just like we've touched on, the leadership is not as visionary, and that means a lot of people are looking for quick fixes. So people who have the resources choose to invest in outside countries. Not that we don't have billionaires within, we do have them. Yeah. They choose not to invest in our ecosystem because we don't have the structures that are necessary to ensure that the investments are going to grow exactly. Yeah. So I think it's a work in progress. If we don't do it again, I think it would be a great advantage and benefit to have investors investing locally, because you never really know what happens with external ecosystems. In case of an economic crash, that would mean any investments that have been put out in outside ecosystems would basically be lost. But if we could create our own ecosystem that is shielded from external factors, then that means we could actually find a longer term solutions for investors to benefit, number one, and number two, to protect our economies from influences of external changes in the global economies and stuff. Yeah.
Okay. Right.
So I wouldn't give an actual estimate. I would personally hope it's done probably within the next 10 years. I would really hope. My gut feeling says a lot of individuals and investors, and that's one of the things we've been doing, is reaching out and finding ways to actually incentivize investors to invest locally. Yeah. We're finding startups within, we're finding investors within, and trying to marry the two together to ensure common good for all of us.
Okay.
I hope your gut feeling is right, and we'll bank on that, really. I think you brought a very interesting point about funding and about AI and startups. So, Greg, your company, this digital AI, focuses on literacy of AI.
Yeah.
So, I would tend to ask: was it a buzzword in the current era we are in that made you come up with a company based on AI, or was it what inherently led you to building a company on AI literacy?
Okay, all right. So our genesis is actually not in AI per se. Our genesis is in digital marketing. So the digital space has been growing leaps and bounds in Kenya. So I've run a number of businesses, and the common success factor across those businesses is that we heavily leveraged on digital. When others were so focused on the traditional modes of marketing and advertising, we went the digital way. We have been buying ads, we've been promoting our products and services digitally, and we've seen great success. And so we became known for that. And in fact, a lot of the people in our circles started to ask for our help with digital. My co-founder and I, especially my co-founder, would get invited to so many events to speak about digital this, digital that. We also pivoted into our own careers. I am, yes, primarily a software engineer, and I have I've had a 9 to 5 for a long time. She also had a 9 to 5 job for a long time as the head of digital strategy for a global NGO. But as soon as AI came into the discussion, joined the chat, so to say, we, I guess, just naturally gravitated towards it. We're like, what is this new thing, and how does it help our businesses? So you see, it always starts from, how does it help me? Before I start to tell you how it helps you, I have to figure out how it helps me first.
Yeah.
So once we figured that out, we started to implement what we knew, started to invest also in courses. And some of these courses back then were not not affordable. We're talking about $1,000 for like a 2-day crash course.
Right.
And you were like, yeah, this thing is important. So this is the direction the world is heading, so we might as well invest in it. And we started to just use the AI knowledge ourselves. And so the requests for speaking on panels about digital marketing transformed into, can you come and talk about AI? Because we know you're using it. We've seen either some of the digital collateral we've put out, we've explicitly said, yeah, this, our processes are, we've automated part of it with AI. And so these requests kept piling up. And then one day we were like, I think we need to build something around this need. It's a growing need, and we evaluated the market and saw that it's a blue ocean. Blue ocean simply means there's more opportunity than there are service providers, and so that's how we got into it. It was just where we ended up because people kept asking, "Can you come and help with this? Can you teach us this? Can I have 10 minutes of your time on a call about ABC?" And that's where it started.
Okay, I do have a follow-up question. In your experience teaching, are people really interested in what AI really is? Do they really understand what AI is? Or are they just interested in how it works for them? And again, maybe as you answer that, you can just say, do you feel like AI solves all business problems? Because I will have a question after that, but
Okay.
I do want to know whether do you think that AI in business solves every problem that can be?
Okay, so your first question, are people using it the correct way, or do people understand it? So when people come to class the first time, people have an idea. And I think that's something that is common with Kenyans. By the time a Kenyan is coming out to ask for something or to look for something, they've already researched it on their own. They've gone on Google, they've talked to their friends in their circles. They kind of have an idea. They feel like they know. Majority of the people who come into our class are people who have identified the potential. So they know what it is, but they also know, I don't know enough. And so they are willing to invest to learn more so that they can leverage that potential that they have identified. Now, to your second question, does it solve all business problems? Absolutely not. I always say artificial intelligence is meant to augment what you already do. Okay? So if your business model is flawed, doesn't matter how much AI you apply to it, it will remain flawed. So there are still fundamental things about business that are not going to change simply because you wrap it in a new shuka of AI. Okay? So you still need to fix your business model, your revenue model, your marketing strategies, everything that makes a successful business. You still need to figure that out. These tools are simply coming in to help you do things better, efficiently, and faster. Okay? Think of it, and as a millennial, I'll talk about a time when there were no computers in offices, and people used to type on typewriters.
Yeah.
And if you made a mistake, you had to take the paper out, apply what was known as whiteout. You guys probably have never seen what that looks like. Okay? It's literally you paint over the mistake with like white paint that blends into the paper, reinsert the paper, and then type the correct thing again. All right. Computers came, and now all you needed to do was just backspace. You made a mistake, a spelling mistake, you simply correct it and you move forward. So computers just make that process of correcting errors faster and easier. It's the same thing with AI. AI will help you automate things. AI will help you do your research much faster. It will help you create creative, collateral for your marketing campaigns a lot faster. It's been trained on so much data. But at the end of the day, if you are in business, it's not going to run the business for you. You are still in the driver's seat. And if you're driving down the wrong road, AI doesn't know. AI will just help you go faster down that wrong road. Okay. Yeah.
Okay, I love that. I will reference an article I saw yesterday on LinkedIn for your question, Ted, that there's a guy who used AI to form a business plan. It formed a business model. So it told him use Cloud for this, Gemini for this. It gave him an entire business plan for about a year. And so this person has made 0 revenues, and he attributes his failure or lack of money to a lack of implementation. He says that he had too many options. Like you had too much of what you have a perfect plan. So Ted, I ask, is that something, are we in an age where because of AI, we're now not struggling with not a lack of a plan, but you have too perfect of a plan that now it becomes hard to implement? So that is the new problem in business, that we're moving from a creation to a problem in implementation.
So, of course, AI is a sandbox, right? And it's meant to be the smartest person in the room, which means that it's your doctor, it's your government, it's your BRS business registration system. It's any and all things that you wish it to be, right? This genie in a bottle. And it can grant you any number of wishes. But I think that's the problem, right? Aladdin is only given 3 wishes, right? And that's because the world can offer a lot to you in the way of promises. But if you can't act on it, then it becomes very quickly valueless. Not invaluable, just valueless in general, right? So we live in a society where we have a lot of capacity to create, right? And AI has come in to accelerate that process. But you would often find that we ourselves aren't spending enough time thinking about how to use this tool properly. When you think about onboarding a lawyer into your business, you're not just coming in and telling them, I absolutely know nothing, right? You're here to basically create every single legal structure for me. No, that's not what happens. It's there. You've already started working with something. You've signed a gentleman's agreement. Now you're telling them, I understand who this person is. I understand what value they're bringing into the business. I understand what they need to do. Help me come up with a document that converts this informal agreement into a document of trust, right? A structured document of trust. I think that's where people often tend to fail with the implementation and use of AI, right? Of course, it can create a perfect business plan for you, but most of the time people don't put in enough effort to actually create a proper context for what it's supposed to do for you, right? So there's plenty of, at this point in time, AI prompting courses all over the world, even AI prompting tools, right? That are supposed to help you build the structure that is supposed to put, not necessarily even a perfect plan, but any plan in easy steps that can allow for you to actually take action on them. I think that's where we need to generally go. That's where we are at in society. And it's for personal use, it's for business cases. The moment we figure out how to give the right context to actually spend time in understanding what it is we need from these tools, then we're probably going to see much better results, not perfect plan for implementation. Because yes, of course, options are too many now. Too many.
There are too many, and I think there's value in constraints.
Absolutely, yes.
Leveraging on the example of Aladdin. Aladdin having just 3 wishes meant that he really needed to think through what he was going to use those 3 wishes on. I've had people who use that example and say, my 3rd wish would have been to wish for unlimited wishes. But you see now that just brings about a dangerous scenario where anything is everything is on the table. So it's everything at any time, anywhere, in any form. humans, I think maybe speaking for myself, I tend to thrive with constraints,
Yes.
with structure.
Yeah.
Where I know these are the limits, these are the parameters, these are the bounds, and this is how much room I have to operate in. And there is no business that will satisfy every customer. Just like you cannot make everybody in your life happy all the time about everything. So why is it that we're expecting AI to be all and do all and, fix everything? You still have to put it in constraints. You still have to, even just looking at the structure of a good prompt already tells you there are constraints
To prompt.
to prompting, because it tells you, yes, you give it a role, and then you give it context. The context are those guardrails, are the parameters, those are the constraints that the prompt should, stick within. And so we have to move away from that notion that AI is here to fix everything.
Yeah.
And that it gives us unlimited options. It's capable of doing those things, but the question is that useful? Is that the correct path?
Yeah.
Think about everything you've achieved in your life up until this point, and you'll realize there were constraints involved in everything.
I think just maybe on the same thing, I'd say a perfect plan is equivalent to no plan.
Yes,
If
it's
you're
nothing.
unable to execute.
Yeah.
In fact, the man who doesn't have a plan but knows what to do, and he only has a starting point, but this person has been cultured around execution, is more capable of attaining greater feats than someone who has perfect plans.
Yes.
And I think it's so I think AI, what it has done is it's given the illusion of empowerment to everybody. So you could basically wake up and think of the next Fortune 500 companies, and you'll have a perfect plan how to build a company in 5 years to make sure it's attaining the Fortune 500. And that's the problem, really. So it's an illusion, but I don't believe in perfect plans. I think we learn on the go.
Yes.
So yeah, it's just 2 cents on that
In
one.
business, you don't get into it knowing everything.
Absolutely.
In fact, the mantra is usually just start.
And then learn on the go.
You build the ship as you are sailing it.
Yeah.
But this is I feel like this, what you're talking about is a utopia world, a world where people
Perfect,
know
yes.
constraints, but our minds are not trained to allow hardship. That I tend to go towards the side that has less hardship, and then that's why you say the whole principle of if something is hard, I tend not to do it again.
It's called the
So
path of least resistance.
Yes,
Yeah.
and so the question becomes, and I can even ask you, Nick, and it's an idea I've had recently that the older generation, or rather the people who built big companies back then before AI, they tend to think that business people right now are lazy, to say the least. To say that you're not doing your paperwork yourself, you're using a bot to
ChatGPT.
do accounting, like there's accounting forms that can do your spreadsheets for you. And so they tend to believe that these AI tools are inherently making people lazy, or the new found business people are lazy, including startups. That the buzzword behind creating startups with AI, again, do you agree with the notion that new age business people or new business people in the scene are lazy or lazier than older business people?
Okay, so maybe I'll allude to first of all, I'll say no. It's that's the blanket response I'll give. And maybe we can go back to the first line of code that was written to take the rockets to space. One, it was written manually, right? So you can imagine writing code manually, stacks of pages upon pages, right? Before we had the calculator, you'd have to do eight number calculations, multiplications just by using your brain. And then we got the calculator, and then they said, nah, this is not good for our kids. Then now we have computing technology, which makes it easier and faster for us to go to space.
Yeah.
We don't have to manually write lines of code. I think technology has evolved. So if they say we are getting lazier, I'll have to ask them why they use computers to begin with. Because for them, it was a cheat code, right? They were taking over, they were building businesses, competing against a generation that had no clue about computers. They didn't have the advantage of computers. So they also got their cheat code when computers were invented. Then comes Google and search engines. There were businesses which were still running pre-Google, pre-search engines. There are businesses that have never had the privilege of being on a social media platform and the whatnots, and they had to run manually. They never really expanded beyond the reaches of their country, because they never got the cheat code what Google and Instagram has given some other individuals and businesses. So to some extent, I will say, actually to the greater extent, I'll say each generation will have its own evolution of technology. The adoption is going to vary from generation to generation. This is what we are facing, and it only makes sense to use it to advantage. Again, thinking about it, AI and technology is just an enabler. It's made work faster. So an analogy I'll use is I have a car, I never had lane assist. Now I have a car and I have lane assist. I had a business, I had to hire consultants. Now I don't necessarily need to hire consultants for everything. I can just consult. We're still doing the consulting though. But it's just we're doing it in a smarter, faster, and cheaper way, which is artificial intelligence. And of course, again, we always evolve to adopt the path of least resistance. So this is one of those things that we've come to adopt as a generation. So it's definitely working to advantage. On the flip side, what this means is not every business, in fact, the quality of businesses is going to reduce. The quality of businesses being brought to life is going to reduce, and therefore getting more successful businesses with time is going to be a difficult thing, partly because right now we are at the onset of artificial intelligence. I don't know what this will evolve into in the next 5-10 years. I don't know whether we're looking at fully fledged AI companies everywhere you're going. Nairobi's flooded with AI companies. I don't really know what that looks like, but the quality of businesses is bound to decrease, in my opinion. People are going to be less connected to businesses and startups because they are getting all the information from a generic source. So I think that's what we are looking at. But it's just our cheat code. You can't call us out for having a cheat code.
Okay.
I mean, let me just jump in on this, right? So I'd like to challenge the idea that businesses will eventually get worse, quality will continue to drop. And it's simply based off of the idea that there are certain things in business that have become easier to do right now, right? And it's the same evolution that we saw from manual bookkeeping to QuickBooks, Excel, and now even integrated financial systems, right? To the extent where you don't even need to buy QuickBooks. Somebody can literally build you a custom-made solution for your own business, right? As you continue to see technology be adopted, it consistently gets better and better. And the output of that also increases, right, at the same level. So what you'd find is that, of course, there's going to be now a great flood. A lot more people are going to hop on these tools and create a lot more options. So the sea tends to, get a little bit murkier, but you're also going to see more unicorns, more people that are able to rise above the noise, right? And I'd argue that even in this sea of noise, they're above a starting point. And it's usually where their predecessors dropped off at.
Yes.
Because they never use the tools, they never leverage them, so they're not the in and the new thing. So our base point, of course, will lift. And the frequency of unicorns will also begin to increase.
So I think to that, yes, I agree. I think what maybe I need to rephrase this one, the quality of founders, that's what I had in my brain. Partly because it's like, you're now not expected to have a lot of things mastered. And therefore, in my opinion, individuals are less connected to what they're building, since you have everything on, it's like you're living on a pedestal now. You're getting everything on a silver platter. The hardship is not a necessity for successful businesses. That's something I tend to disconnect from, right? So that could be one of the, but again, the quality of the number of unicorns is going to increase. I think what I was alluding to again is the number of businesses that are going to be way well off, and especially dominance is something we're looking at. You're going to have fewer businesses occupying larger market scopes because it's only fewer individuals who've mastered how to use technology overally. So you're going to have more successful companies because these are individuals who are really connected with what they're building. Other people are still going to be using AI. They are going to be above the set standard by our predecessors, yes, but the gap between the really successful founders and the not so successful founders is going to be significantly higher.
And
Okay.
that, Greg, I just want to ask you first, before then you give a response if you wish to. As a software engineer, do you respect or hold in any regard vibe coders?
Okay. I'll
Yeah.
just provide
I just want to,
Yeah,
I just want
moment.
to answer
Okay.
that, yeah.
Now, let's talk about just what Nick alluded to. So, what I think is going to happen, and is already happening, is that we're getting to a place where it's becoming harder and harder to distinguish who the experts are, the human experts, because everyone is leveraging an AI at the back.
Yeah.
And so they're presenting themselves as the expert on the front end. Now, the thing about business and successful businesses at that is that they do require expertise.
Human expertise.
Yes. And the human expertise is in different facets. So it's not just the technical bits that you're bringing to the table and that serves the customer, but it's also the interpersonal expertise. Things like just empathy. The way you deal with employees is not necessarily the way you will deal with your customers. The emotional intelligence you bring to difficult conversations. AI is not going to help you with that. Even just the ability to pivot and recognize the market is shifting, and I need to adjust. That's something that is still fundamentally human. When you talk to your customers, there are things, if you are not listening closely, that you will miss, and somebody else listening to the same group of customers will catch, and that will give them an advantage over you. So there's still a huge place for humans to create that differentiating factor that determines why I win and why you don't. And AI can only do so much.
Yeah.
It will help you with the technical, it will help you with the systems, but it is not going to sit in the driver's seat as a CEO and make those difficult decisions. It will not cast your vision for you. It will not determine who you are. Even in your team, who sits in which seat. It's very hard for a system to determine that, as much as we are trying to automate those systems. Now, as a software engineer, all I've been doing, if I can summarize my entire career, is that I've been building efficiencies for 22 years. And I remember the first program I coded when in class, during computer science class. It was simply, I realized, actually it wasn't even in computer science. No, I was in Form 2. We were in the computer lab. They just introduced computer classes for high schools. And I remember I was coming from the math class and we were transitioning into the computer class. And in that math class, I had just learned the formula for calculating a leap year. Like, how do I determine, it was 1960 something, a leap year or not? Because it was an exam. It came in one of our continuous assessment tests. And I was like, how unless I know, and then I'm now counting backwards every 4 years. I was like, that's not efficient. What if it's a date like 1678? So there was a formula that the teacher showed us, and I was like, is there a way for me to teach the computer how to do this calculation for me? And so when we went into the computer class, as in that was the first question I asked the lecturer, and well, he didn't know. He was more, teaching us this is hardware, as in this is a mouse, this is a monitor, this is how you switch it on, this is how you navigate. And so that question stayed with me even as I went to campus and, the first class. And once I learned how to code, that was actually the first program I built. Just a simple program to calculate leap years for me. And that was efficiency. Instead of doing it manually on paper, all I needed to do was just type in the year and hit OK, and it would tell me whether yes or no, whether it was a leap year. So we have been building efficiencies all along. And like Ted said, those efficiencies free us essentially to do other more strategic, more creative things. And so that's the same thing even in business. You will see a rise in creativity, but a decline in this thing for I am an expert in ABC. Because everybody now will just leverage the LLMs to become the expert. But the creativity that you bring into aligning point A and point B to get to point C, that is still going to be very human-centric, okay? Mm-hmm. Now, vibe coders. I have no problem with vibe coders. What I have a problem with is systems that are being passed off as enterprise systems that were built purely using vibe code. Because there's a nuance in the way we build code. Code is not just supposed to run and execute correctly, it's also supposed to be efficient. Now, there are algorithms that are capable of achieving the same results. So think of it like I'm commuting from one town to another, and there are very many different routes. Google Maps will show you most cases at least 2 options that you can take, but one of them is more efficient than the others. Okay, so even the algorithms that we apply when we are building our code, we have to think about efficiencies. We have to think about memory leakage, and is this software going to be used on a mobile device or on a mainframe system or a supercomputer or just a laptop? But all of them are correct. They still get you from point A to B. They get you from Nairobi to Mombasa. But one of them will take you through Garissa to get to Mombasa. Another one will take you to Kisumu first and Eldoret and then keep going. So is it efficient? But you still get to Mombasa. Yeah. Okay? So that's the problem with vibe coding. You lose control over the algorithm that you are using to help people. So you are just you're defining the end goal without any control over the process, the journey to get to that end goal. So it may look very nice and beautiful, and when you use the app or whatever it is, it does do what you need to do. But the moment you scale is where you realize where the problems are. So there's this phrase it's when the tide goes out that we find out who's been swimming naked, and those days are coming. Yeah.
I have a quick follow-up though. Don't you think that a good prompt, so with the onset of prompt engineering and learning how to give good prompts, don't you feel like a good prompt will take me to Garissa the shortest path possible with efficiency, and not really now face this idea that you bring that there will be a lack of efficiency, or rather there's not no efficiency, but there's lower efficiency by using vibe coding. Don't you think a good prompt fixes that issue right away?
So what I would say is a good prompt should get you started, should set the foundations and give you a head start. Because the way we traditionally write code is, he talked about, NASA and the way the original code was written manually on paper. That's how we trained in JQuat back then. We literally used to write code on our books before you type it into the computer, okay? Mm-hmm. And so you needed to get it right, even on paper, as in you needed to debug code by looking at it and reading it. And then determining, I can make adjustments here. Maybe this is a bit inefficient. I can use a different algorithm. And then you type it out and then you execute. But even when you execute, then you would see it's like the rubber meets the road. You're like, here I made an assumption. The computer is giving me completely different results. And then you make adjustments, you iterate, and you go. So vibe coding should help you bypass all this paperwork and get to that place where I'm prototyping. And then you shouldn't now take the prototype and pass it off as a finished product. And now you're going to market and customers are given access. What I would say is the vibe code helps you build that foundation, and then an actual systems analyst or a software engineer now comes in and gets it across the finish line. And that's actually what I do nowadays. I don't start my projects from scratch anymore.
Right.
All my IDEs that I use for coding have co-pilots. I'm usually just starting off and saying this is what I'm trying to build. I give direction, but a lot of the times, I'll be honest, the code is incorrect. Is in there are logical errors.
Hallucinations.
Yeah, there are things that it's trying to do that are not right. And so if I don't have the expertise as a human, then most of the times those things would pass off as correct, go into production, and then create problems later on. So you still want to have a human look at that. Think about something critical like law. You could ask ChatGPT to give you a contract. You're about to sign a deal with someone, and it will give you what appears to be,
A clean contract.
It makes sense. But it's until a lawyer has a look and then realizes this is contravening a certain law and this one cannot even be enforced and so on, then you start to make adjustments. I think the question I always ask is, would you let ChatGPT do your entire medical diagnosis? You're feeling unwell and you're feeling a certain pain, and you go there and you say, this is how I'm feeling, recommend some medication. There are people who are doing that.
I think we're getting there, actually.
There are people who are doing that, but that's dangerous because you still want a doctor, someone who will actually apply their 6 years or how many years they go to school of knowledge,
a lot of
to
experience,
diagnose what the problems could be, run some blood tests or some other types of tests, scans and all of it, and then and only then give a prescription for what you should take to alleviate the problem.
I like that idea of using it as a helper, but I could also argue that behind the scenes, my doctor could also be searching up ChatGPT. So at the end of the day, you're using the longer route, I'm using the shorter route, we're all getting to the same
You see, there's a difference between your doctor using it
and myself.
you. Yeah. Because when they are using it, it's akin to me, a software engineer of 22 years, vibe coding, and anybody else, a newbie, vibe coding.
We're
still using the same tools, but I will be able to take that initial code, deconstruct it, find problems, fix them, improve it, and then deliver a polished product. While they will just simply take what the LLM gives them, the tool gives them, and present it. They have no control over. If the client says, I need to tweak this, now they're trying to go back to the vibe code engine to make those changes. And that's usually where a lot of the platforms fall apart. They're very good at ideating the first time, but the moment you try and bring about changes, especially systemic changes, it just now gives up.
In extension, right? So, of course, this doctor scenario, right? The probable use case for them is in research, and it's in sifting through stacks and stacks and stacks of peer-reviewed papers that would provide them with a lot of contextual detail before they actually get to the result that they intend. So what AI would be particularly useful in such a scenario is in helping you identify this is exactly what you're looking for. No more, no less, right? It's not engineering new information. It's just helping you get to the output that you intend much quicker. And I think that's what we've seen, or we should see a lot more of in society, right? So, of course, zero problem with vibe coders, right? And the tools that they create. But often I would only accept them as demonstration tools.
Sandbox.
Right? So it's a sandbox. AI has become a sandbox for you to explore your ideas. You're thinking about an app for financial wellness. Great. Investors feel more confidence when they're able to see a tool that they can interact with. But is that final product? No, that's version 0. That's version 0.0 or 0.1, right? That needs to be successively built into multiple other iterations that fix the logical assumptions that were created. Because that's the thing with AI. Regardless of the amount of prompting that goes into it, it still makes certain assumptions, right? Regardless of whether you've set parameters and certain barriers. Because it knows a lot about the context that you fed it, but even your assumptions are transferred into that model, right? So you need people to come and sift through this and say, this doesn't work and doesn't fit. So let's apply this fix so that it actually works and churns out a better result, better output, right?
And I think that's why it would be difficult then for AI to replace humans in whatever
entirely.
context. I think AI would be perfect for generating solutions for AI.
Yeah.
For fellow
Yeah.
AIs, because they would always find a way to up. I think this would happen.
Yeah.
But when it comes to human context, there's a lot of things that AI doesn't give. And I think I will allude to the fact when you talked about founders, that is something that I relate with a lot. Quick, just to pick our brains, you can, and this is something we can actually all, if we had our computers, would actually come up with one problem, right? And I would say, all right, let's go out, develop solutions for it. We could end up with as many alternatives as possible. I like this analogy, the red car analogy. I'd say, let's think of a car, a red car to be specific. You probably thought of a Mercedes, a Volkswagen, a BMW. And the reason why, it's because it's the same thing with AI. It knows as far as it is able to think. So human beings are able to relate with information differently based on a lot of interest, experience, right? So this is what makes developing for humans very difficult. You have to build from a place of empathy. So AI would be perfect if it were creating solutions for human beings in a utopian world, a really perfect world. It would be easy to adopt all of the recommendations. It would be so good if AI could tell me, okay, take a paracetamol because you're feeling unwell. But then a doctor would look at that information and be like, I think you have a contraindication which you're not mentioned, or we've interacted before, or there's a new development, or there's a new change. Maybe there's your blood pressure which has not been accounted for and stuff like that. Therefore, that would mean you could get the same information a doctor gets. The only problem is they have information to back the decision they are going to make. So AI is not a decision maker. It gives information. It churns out that information, but it won't make the decisions. If it does, it will make the wrong decisions, not tailored for you, and that's why you need human beings in the decision-making space.
Indeed, AI should be your assistant. Most people are treating it like the boss.
Final say.
As in it's my advisor. It's telling me this is the direction, and then I'm now the robot.
I'm the one doing it.
I'm just now the one doing it. It should be the other way around. You should use it as an assistant. However, with that said, there are still complete jobs that will be completely possible to do with AI. Especially jobs that don't require any...
Don't say plan B.
thinking.
Not yapping.
Not yapping. But look at it this way. Has anyone seen... I feel like... I can't remember, I don't know what advertisement this is, but it's always they're building, of course we've gotten better with like generative AI tools, right? So it's always, there's an ad that's being created exclusively for YouTube, and it's always these three guys in a podcast and they're like, how do you leverage AI in your 40s? And I'm like, that's an entirely
it's costly.
AI.
It's costly, right? So I'm like, be
flooding
scared a little, but not too much, right?
So there are jobs that will be going away because of AI. If you are doing anything mathematical and that is repetitive, think about data entry clerks. There's no real human thinking. You're simply reading and transferring, converting written into digital. Those will go away. Even things like bank tellers. What do they actually do all day? They receive money and key it into the system. And calculate if there's change. In fact, they don't even calculate, the system tells them, and they dispense. They receive checks, they type it in. And there are systems now that can receive in fact, there are banks where you can bank a check at the ATM machine and you're done. You don't even need to enter the banking hall too. So bank tellers, that role of receiving money, sitting there at the booth and receiving money and keying it in, and that stuff will go away. But now, what does that mean for a bank teller? It simply means they need to transition possibly into customer service, so that when I'm wanting to talk to a human, then there's someone who can assist me, as in I have a problem with my account, or my card is lost, or something. So there are still other roles that a bank teller can play within the banking system, in the banking business, but not necessarily just receiving money and keying it in. Receiving money, keying it in.
But the people at the call center, so
Yes.
there are already people doing that job of I have an issue, sort me
Yes,
out. So
exactly.
again, I ask you, do we now all
Yeah.
do all the tellers transfer to this call service, and then is it
Not
possible
really
and
to
feasible?
calls, because think about it. There are some scenarios where it's okay for me to talk to someone on the phone, and then there are others where I want to sit face to face with you and sort it out. Now, here's an example. I've ordered something on Amazon, and it's a package. It's supposed to come to me, and they're shipping it to me via DHL. And DHL said, when is today? Today is the 14th. It's supposed to arrive on the 10th, and today is the 14th, and it still hasn't arrived. It's okay for me to go on their website and literally even talk not to a human, to a chatbot, an AI-powered chatbot, and simply key in my details. This is my waybill number. This is the package. This is the origin. What's happened? Where is my package? And it will sift through their system and find an answer for me and give it to me. That's okay. That's fine. However, if you were to receive a notification on your phone right now, somebody has withdrawn 100K from your account, and it's those automated SMSs that we get when we transact with our banks. And you're like, wait, that's not me. The first step is that you will call and want to talk to someone in customer service. That's the call center. But if they can't fix it, if they need you to come in and fill in a form, that's now where you will need to want to talk to, physically, face to face with somebody.
You escalate.
So it will have to keep escalating.
Yeah.
So you see, the first point of entry would be probably a chatbot, an AI-powered chatbot that can answer the generic questions that people are asking all the time anyway. And then a human agent who can deal with your specific nuance, and then yet another, more empowered individual with more authority now to address the issue. You might even end up talking to the branch manager physically, as in person in their office, to try and sort out the issue. So we still need humans in the system, just not at the bottom, dealing with the mundane.
Yeah.
One of my previous businesses was a bakery, and we would take orders online. And part of and I said we do a lot of things in digital. We used to run all of our campaigns on Facebook and Instagram. And regardless of whether we put the information in a poster, as in we're running a promotion for, let's say, a Black Forest cake, and we've put the size and the price and our location and our operating hours. In the comments, people are still asking, what's the price? It's like they didn't even bother to look at the poster.
Yeah.
They just saw Black Forest and they went straight into it. People are asking us, where are we located? It's again in the poster. What time do we open and close?
On the poster.
In the poster. So can you imagine how infuriating it was for we had two ladies who are monitoring our social media. All day long, they're just repeating what is in the poster over and over and over in the comments. Sometimes even in the DMs.
Yes,
and on, until we put together a bot that just monitored for those mundane, repetitive, frequently asked questions. And they were now freed up to deal with the actual problems customers were facing. I'm lost. I'm trying to navigate to your place. Is it on this road, on this one? I'm coming from this part of town. How do I navigate? Now, those are useful things that a human now would be able to help with. Or I ordered something and what arrived maybe was damaged. How do we fix this? Now that's a human issue that even an AI cannot fix, okay? So we still want humans, but we want humans doing strategic, creative things, not the mundane and the repetitive.
I think, so for that, we'd have to say then it's a call for upskilling. I think the only challenge we have as human beings is when we are struck by catastrophe, the first thing we do is we react. And that's usually, sometimes it's an advantage, most of the time it's not. So a lot of us with the onset of AI are looking at, wow, so you mean I'm going to be unemployed? Well, so you'll just sit down and sulk in that pool and start crying and asking God, why is the world so unfair? I think it's just a call to upskill and to upgrade. It's an advantage to us because then we're not doing the repetitive tasks. It's saving everyone time and money. And it's also giving us to fit into the spaces where human beings were actually supposed to be fitting into. So if you are feeling, you are a data clerk, you're not going to be doing the repetitive tasks over and over again. What you're going to do is you need to figure out within this ecosystem where I've been integrating a lot of data, working around with lots of companies. What other service can we provide from the same experience that I've been able to? So it's an opportunity and it's like the world we're in right now. You have fast movers advantage. So right now, a lot of things are going to be restructured. We're having a lot of restructuring in how economies are running, how jobs are being described.
Yeah.
So it's just a call to how can I find an opportunity within this and basically help to upskill other individuals rather than sitting down and sulking over, spilt milk.
Again, I think that's a perfect world of who are doing things perfectly and they...
Utopic, eh?
Yeah, that's really utopic because I ask you this. So let's go back to the scenario of the bank tellers. Not all those bank tellers will get jobs as customer service because you said there are those already existing customer service, and I know one particular bank that has a department entirely for card services. So in case of any card losses, there are people who call. So these people have lost their job. Do you feel is there moral social responsibility by these companies that if I decide that as a bank I want to use AI to automate the bank teller process, meaning that this number of people will, again, we have a couple of banks in Kenya and they really do hold down a couple of economies. So this is a mother, this is a father who will not have school fees for their child and whatever. Is there a moral social responsibility to say, one, I will bring AI but in fewer numbers, or I won't roll out completely so that people can still have jobs, or I will give let's say money over time, let's say 3 months after you've lost your job, I'll still keep paying you a certain percentage of your salary so that you can keep your family sustained, or I simply won't bring AI because I have a responsibility to these people who've given 10, 20 years into a business, and then suddenly, AI is faster, it's more efficient, it costs me less, so you kind of have to go home. Do you feel like these businesses and companies have a moral social responsibility to their employees before rolling out AI?
I think this is now this, you might call me out for a lot of things I'm going to say, which is now in a perfect world there should be a moral, but are we prepared for that? So that's one of the questions I'll ask. Now, that's number one. So this is where we probably fall behind in maybe as a continent, because the individuals with the resources are so fast to adopt anything. They are so fast to adopt anything that will make their processes better and faster. And what that means is we are really trying to emulate what the West is doing faster than we can accommodate our own ecosystems and economies. So if you're running a business, you want to be at par with what the global standard is, right? The unfortunate reality is we are not anywhere remotely close to being where the global standard is supposed to be. But these are individuals running businesses very similar to what the West has, right? You have a bank like Equity that is transacting a lot of volumes, higher or in comparison to what the Western banks can possibly transact, right? You have Safaricom that has a really great valuation, and that means it can match up with the global competitors, right? So for them, it makes a lot of sense to adopt artificial intelligence. It makes a lot of sense for them to move along with the current and the trends. The unfortunate truth is, for the rest of the individuals within our ecosystem, they will always be at a disadvantage. When it comes to global adoption of technologies, we will always suffer. That's what I'll give. We will always be at a disadvantage because it's now a tug. It's a tug of war. I need to ensure that my business is at par, right? What that means is I'll probably need to phase out a few individuals, maybe not even a few, a great number of individuals to ensure that I'm at par with the global standard. But for that to happen, unlike other countries, other economies that have cash reserves that could probably cater for bare minimums, release packages for their employees, we probably don't have that in place at the moment. So in a perfect world, that should be the scenario I romanticize in my brain. But how real and achievable it is, I just don't know.
So it's not a perfect world. And here's a reality check, guys. When it comes to business, it's all about the bottom line. So all this talk about, this employee has been with us 20 years and, they've been with us when we transitioned from typewriters to computers and now we feel beholden to keep them around. But that's not happening. And you see, when you said we're benchmarking against, global standards, do you know what those global standards are? Even, I think people brush off when they hear headlines like Google is laying off 3,000 developers.
There you go. Yeah.
Like, do you know what that means? It means these 3,000 people came in, brought value to the company.
Probably the best of the best.
And built amazing things that helped the company make billions. And once the company faced some kind of challenge, these were the first guys out the door. Not the CEOs who have been there, since, the 90s.
Yeah.
No. It's the guys who actually built the systems. It is not, it's not any other way. That's the global standard. We try and cut inefficiencies in business.
That's the reality.
And it's all about either the bottom line or the shareholders' interests and nothing else, okay? So we need to get rid of this that my business, yes, I can make 3 times as much as I'm making. But it means now I have to let go of this person.
Oh wow! It's go home. Let me keep my profit margins.
That's business.
I mean,
you see, they keep saying it's nothing personal.
Yeah,
it's business.
I think the other
people don't understand that, and people take it personally, and yes, and that's the reality. But I just want to paint the reality of, because the it's not just about employees. Some of these companies also rely on other companies as suppliers.
Yeah.
And the moment they find a cheaper supplier,
they move
out.
To it. Yeah.
You and your good service for 50 years, it doesn't matter. They found someone better.
Yeah, but that's competitive advantage.
Yes.
That's me being better than you in terms of the service.
And you can apply the same logic
to AI
to an employee. So is AI doing your job better than you? And why should I, as CEO, keep you around? For vibes? No.
To remain ethically correct.
We've seen today is the fact that there's always a conversation on value, right?
Yes.
So I'm able to extract value when I reduce costs. I'm able to extract value when I'm able to make more, when I can grow my relationships, right? But the thing that I think now is becoming a contemporary challenge in society is we've managed to fit people neatly into boxes.
Yeah.
You've told a teller, your job is to do exactly this, right? And now AI has come in and it's doing it better than the teller, right? An automated system doesn't even have to be AI.
Doesn't get sick, doesn't take off, doesn't need a salary.
So uptime is like 100%, Nayako ni 50, right? You find an inherent challenge in those kinds of spaces. So I get where we can't be wishy about it, right?
We can't.
Because realistically, the nature of work has changed. And it's what we began with in saying you can become an organization in and of yourself. Because at the same time, it's probably the worst time to be an employee, right? You're probably facing potential unemployment.
Yeah.
And it could happen to you at any given moment in time. But the real opportunity is that you've been given a sandbox of tools that can allow for you to become a domain expert in anything. You can be outsourcing your skills, your value, your utility to so many other people.
Yeah.
So of course there's going to be a tendency to focus on the pessimism of it all, right? I'll lose my job, my child won't have healthcare, I won't be able to feed my kids. But I think there's an opportunity for you to be a radical optimist in this sense and say that I can create with the tools that I have, right?
Can we all be employers?
I think
you can employ yourself.
when perhaps you look at this from this lens, when a business is able to cut operating costs, right, it means it probably increases the revenue.
Yeah.
When you're looking at it from the angle of this business is also being funded by individuals who are putting risks and they probably want more returns.
Yeah.
More returns equals more profits, and these profits can now be invested into creating channels for employment in spaces that actually matter.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So
What are
when
those
you're looking, for
spaces?
instance, when you're looking at the future of jobs, there's I don't know, the top 10 rising careers in by 2030 are going to be things we've not had. There are courses which are being funded now by the same individuals who've laid you off to upskill you to learn this new skill, because businesses are in the business of delivering value.
Yes.
So if I lay you off and it's going to provide more profit margins for us to invest in other things which can give you a job, then we're actually saving your life, because you're going to be more relevant in future than you are right now.
Yeah.
Laying you off basically means there's opportunity for growth that you can't accommodate.
Yeah.
There's an opportunity for growth that you can't accommodate. You're not the right person for the job. And I mean, let's also be honest. How many people are also unemployed as we speak? A lot of people are unemployed.
Yes.
And we just want to increase those margins, because what I'm hearing
And
is
those guys-
I should feel
But you
good
see,
that I'm going home.
here's the thing, as in it's not black and white. It's capitalism versus socialism.
Yeah.
You see, when it comes to the scenario of business, why are you in business? Is this a business or is it a hobby?
Yes.
You see, because if you're in business, you're there to create value and
Social fund.
extract value from the market. What is the value you're extracting? You're extracting profit
Yeah.
from the market. And what are you doing with that profit? Is it just to enrich yourself? You probably have a vision for something that you want to do with your money, with what you're doing. You want to build a bigger company. You want to go into bigger markets. You want to build more products and more innovations and etc. So the profit is already planned for. You have a vision for it, okay? But we are so stuck, and I see this a lot when I speak to, unfortunately, African founders, where people feel a hesitancy to adopt technology that they know is good for them and for their business, that will bring about an increase in their revenue and in their profits, simply because there's a human component here. There's a social construct that we've put ourselves into, where we're like, I don't want to let go of, I don't want to replace a human being, simply because they've been with me for a long time.
Yeah.
And yet, there's a system that can do that. So think about, and I'll give you a very real example. And this one is let me get into the example. So there's a friend of mine who is a TV producer. He produces TV shows, and all of you, if you watch any of the local shows that are produced locally, either on Showmax or on Netflix, you've probably seen at least one of his shows. Now, he has built that business over more than 10 years, progressively. Started off with a small team, and he built and built, and he got a break, as in got his show bought by a big network, and he has, over time has grown into a big team. So at one point, he had 12 videographers, guys like these guys, 12 videographers on staff, video editors rather, not videographers, video editors who would look through all the footage and decide what to cut in and out to create an episode. And not just one episode, but entire seasons of his shows. 12 video editors. As of earlier this year, when I had a discussion with him, he was down to one.
Wow.
One guy who uses AI tools. So what happens to the other 11? And now, you see, his justification is that it makes sense for his business. He'd rather pay one salary, even if he was to increase that salary, let's say he doubles that salary for that one guy, and pays subscriptions for all these AI tools, and it doesn't have to deal with 11 other salaries. It's actually making him more money.
Yeah.
And the efficiency that this one guy now is able to do, when he evaluated in terms of output, he's doing much more than what the entire team used to do
Put
when they were
together.
all together.
Soon it seems then that we are moving to a world where we'll have big companies and all we'll be
With
banking on
lean
is
teams.
and then what will be depending on CSRs. So it could come to a world where it's just a big company
But see,
getting
Bridget,
bigger
why,
and bigger.
why is it that you're assuming that these 11 guys just simply went home?
Because they went home.
Some of them
chances
may
are they
have gone home,
probably
but
did.
it was their decision. But you see, they also had the potential to leverage exactly what their colleague did, empower themselves with AI, and start their own thing.
Okay.
Right.
There is no shortage of opportunities. It's just a shortage of people willing to do the work.
Okay. What
We've
I
been
fear,
programmed.
you programmed?
We've been programmed, right? So the idea here is, and it goes back to, I think this is the fundamental problem of our capitalist society. We learned very early on to become very efficient at creating drones. Now, even in a beehive, a drone is really only good for one job. It's supposed to go out, find honey or find nectar, come, spit back into a honeycomb cell, and then that's it.
Rinse
That's
and
its
repeat.
job, right? Rinse and repeat every single day. We've created drones of humans that are able to do one thing very well, right? Outside of that, there's nothing much else to offer, right? And that in and of itself creates a very
that's a problem.
And when you look at
right?
how human beings are evolving, I think it's going to be it's almost impossible to say you're limited to one option.
Yeah.
So a statistic suggests that in the former generations you had one person staying in one office for 30 years and they're comfortable with that. Right now, like you've said, you are an organization in and of yourself, right? So you can get as many as 6 jobs if you want. For instance, for a videographer, back then a videographer was relevant in creating shows. Right now, videographers are so critical for creating TikTok content, Instagram content. They are so important.
But AI can do that. So AI is getting
AI can, but not. So they could be that. Just like this guy got a job and he's leveraging AI tools. You could also be that videographer helping a social media celebrity to create content for themselves.
Yeah.
There's millions of social media influencers now looking for that one videographer who can leverage artificial intelligence so they don't have to pay 6 videographers as well.
Remember, he didn't get the job, he was the one left.
Yeah. Let me even give you like a practical example. And this is someone I know. He had a full-time job, really good at what he was doing, earning about 400K a month take home. In 2022, he decided what the things that happened during COVID, people getting laid off. He was lucky he was spared. His job was safe. But it still put a fire in him for like, if that could happen again, how safe am I? Okay? So he transitioned into building a personal brand. And I think that's what many people now need to start considering. Building a personal brand around what you are good at and what you do. Okay. So what service is it that you bring to the world? And notice I'm not saying to the table anymore, I'm saying to the world.
Yeah.
Because the world is open to everyone
beyond
now.
the table.
Okay? It's beyond here, just this table. So what he did is he started to look for other remote jobs alongside his job. He still had his full-time job, but he found a remote job. And he found ways to automate as much as possible. The employer didn't care whether he's the one who did it or he built systems to do the work. He just cared about the output. Was the work done? And then he managed that for a few months and realized, I still have free time. And he applied for another remote job. At one point, he had 4 remote jobs alongside his 9 to 5, and he was earning 2 million shillings every month as an individual. Okay?
Yeah.
So was he exhausted? Was he overworking? No. He simply just leveraged the tools and the expertise he had available to himself, and he would build out all these systems. And the jobs he went after online were not at difficult jobs that require his intense. He was very intentional in going after the low-hanging fruit. Things that he knew, I will take this job and I know how to deliver it, turn it around in a couple of hours by automating a lot of it. And he just rinsed and repeated. So it was his personal brand out here that was getting him the jobs, and he had his own system where a job comes in, it's run through the system, and out goes the result. Job comes in, out it, literally. So if he could do that as an individual, what's stopping the rest of us?
Yeah.
It's what I went back, to what I said earlier. People are so conditioned, and Ted put it properly. We've been conditioned to be drones. I work for this company, and this is the only company I work for. This is my role at the company, and this is only my role. This is where I sit, and nobody else sits here. This is my desk. And you build your entire existence around that role and that company.
Yeah.
The day that company gets wound up,
You're done. Yeah.
And there were companies people never imagined would get wound up. You mentioned USAID.
Yeah.
People there were very comfortable. I know friends who built their lives around their salaries and very cushy jobs. But in
pen stroke.
Done.
In the West,
Yeah.
people who had never met and had nothing to do with his life, he's out.
I like the
From
idea
one
too.
weekend to the next, he's out.
I like the
I think-
idea about apply yourself broadly, and I just want to segue into something else. Even as I dish out cards, so I can find who's the king of the deck.
Yeah.
As we jump into this aspect of, is that AI, and I use this term loosely, aristocracy, meaning that it's only those who make the AI tools themselves that actually earn money. That you, by getting your subscription, you paying your subscription, paying your token if you are using local language, then it doesn't really, you don't earn money, you don't become rich. And so does AI also come in serving in increasing that economic divide? And that's why everybody that says startups are racing to build AI tools, and that's why everyone wants to be a founder. And I say this referencing Steven, who's the host of Diary of a CEO. So he has Flightcast. He launched it, I think it was last week or something, and it's a platform where now for video
Creators.
podcasters, and it's a one place. And so he now, of course, he's doing subscriptions on it. So do you think that it now becomes a race of, and I'll leave this so that anyone who wants to go first can go first, that anyone who wants to get rich, anyone who wants to have money, you become the founder of this AI tools, that if I'm just using the tools, I can never compare. And so it just widens this economic divide that has always been there.
No. So I think that the challenge has always been with the way that people approach innovation and entrepreneurship. Flightcast is a good product because it solves a real problem, right? And that's the story of many other AI tools that are currently existing. So whether it's AI in medical research or it's AI in business automation, right? It's something that has been a fundamental challenge that people are now figuring out, how do I use technologies of the day to get ahead? Right? To provide actual meaningful solutions to people. Because you'd find that the challenge today in society isn't that there aren't enough podcast studios or enough podcast engineers that can put together a show for you. It's that all of these areas are cost centers. And there are a lot of people who either are domain experts or have opinions that want to get their voice out in the world. Because that's the thing that we've learned how to do best as humans, to trade information, to tell stories, right? We've entered into a system where it's really expensive to do so. So if I'm able to aggregate all of this in one platform and just charge a subscription, I've solved a very big problem for a great number of people, and therefore by doing so, I've created a good product. All I've done is leverage modern day technology.
But Nick, let me ask this. So you're saying you're taking a cost of one, like I used to spread out this cost, but now I'm not spreading out this cost anymore, and I have this platform. But isn't it just putting one? It's like instead of spending on many things, I spend on one big thing. Because again, remember, this thing is not Kenyan made, so it's in dollars or in euros. There's a conversion rate. Can I not argue that the money I would have spent paying a videographer and doing all these things, I'm just summing up together and paying one person who I do not know for a subscription for an AI tool because they created it. So I'm not really lowering my costs. I'm just putting it in one place than rather than subdividing it.
I think human beings are very, so this will have to go to the nature of human beings, yeah? And I'll look at this from the two fronts. The first front is we're all provided with the same resources, we have the same number of hours, we have the same opportunities, right? More or less the same opportunities. The unfortunate truth, all right, should I also cast mine? All right. Okay, so the unfortunate truth is human beings always have two types. The first type is the person who is looking at the world from a really different front. They victimize themselves, right?
Yeah.
So you have this individual who has been given the same opportunities as everyone else,
Yeah.
but they feel not competent enough, or they feel bad when someone else goes ahead and takes advantage of the same opportunities we're all provided with. So that's the nature of individuals. So you're going to find in every sect or every set of human beings, even if we are all to be given the same resources, we will never use them to the same capacity. And for someone else, if they see you doing something with it, they'll always feel bad. And they're like, now that someone else has done it, I have no room left to occupy.
Yeah.
So people will victimize themselves.
It's a very defeatist attitude.
Okay.
So yes, I listened to Dario, our CEO, and Stephen Bartlett, and is someone I respect and admire a lot. He does ask the right questions, and I think actually in life, if you learn how to ask the right questions, that's how you achieve success in half the time. Now, there's an episode on his channel where he interviewed the guy who's regarded as the godfather of AI,
yes.
Jeffrey Hinton. I think everyone should find that episode and listen to
Fantastic
it, because it really does address where we are headed as a civilization in terms of AI adoption. And this is coming from the horse's mouth. This is a guy who, pioneered the development of AI from the 1950s. Now, in there, of course, Jeffrey is, issuing a global warning. And in fact, he opens by saying, we should all train to be plumbers.
Yeah.
But do you think he means that literally, that all of us now should, enroll in a technical school and learn how to, work a wrench? And no, I think you can look at that statement figuratively. Yes, there are those who are looking at it literally and wanting to become plumbers, and there's nothing wrong with that. It's a fantastic job. In fact, in the West, such jobs pay very well.
Yeah.
And are in huge demand, and they're not going anywhere. No automation is happening on that front, at least not anytime soon. We've seen some robots, but Russia launched theirs recently, the AI doll, and it couldn't even walk to stage. Anyway, I think when you look at it figuratively, he's simply saying, start training for the things that require a human touch. There are still so many opportunities and jobs. We've talked about some of them here, but let's look practically at the jobs that I would say are safe from AI as of today. Nursing jobs, anything to do with healthcare and caregiving, those are going to be just fine.
Okay.
Anything to do with mechanical, anything that you're doing with your hands, from farming to fixing cars to any handyman kind of job, carpenters, welders, those are going to be just fine. The jobs that are in crisis, and this one we can look up, the World Economic Forum put out a report earlier this year in January called the Future of Jobs Report 2025. And in there they list out the jobs that are in decline and the ones that are on the rise. And in fact, cumulatively, AI is creating more jobs than it is taking away. But people are so focused on
what
the taking away.
Because that's where the majority of us lie.
Yes.
Yeah.
Most people feel like I'm classified as those jobs that are going away. But really, it's so easy for you to transition from that to where the jobs are on the increase simply by applying a new skill.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And
That's where upskilling really comes in.
Then I can ask a question. Even this, I can pose this to Ted. So there's this thing we're talking about upskilling, right, and learning the skills. Do you think it gets to a point where, especially given that the Kenyan curriculum is not taking up the, what do I say, the AI we're not teaching AI in schools, I think, as much as we need to do. So do you feel like it gets to the point where if you are upskilling, then what's the point of a normal education? Like, what's the point of, if after finishing high school, should I not just stop and get a certification? Because I bet if I have certifications in if I get certification in prompt engineering, or I go do certification in analysis, AI analysis, or like CEO analytics, just just getting
Building dashboards,
building dashboards and analyzing the data from these businesses that are using these AI tools. Do you feel like it takes away from now all this, how do I say it? Not normal, but like usual courses in schools? Is it now that, press the alarm button, let everyone start doing certifications in AI, forget your normal course, especially if it's not, of course, handy or NASE or something that can not easily be phased out? Is it a cause for alarm for students?
So we're living in another Renaissance era, right? People are beginning to rediscover what they can do with their hands. And of course, that has direct implications for the way that we train and educate. And in my personal view, of course, it's about time that we change these systems. But also, I say that with a minor caveat. Schools aren't just these factories where you produce people who are educated, right? They are also social environments where people learn off of each other and they learn to interact, right? So by virtue of that, I'd say don't panic and hit reset on the education system, but allow it to embody today's nuance. Think about it in the sense that we are existing in a society that requires a lot more people to think very differently and innovatively, right? That means that school systems need to be altered. And you can view this in the same way that China views its economic strategy and its plan for the country. They always publish a new 5-year plan every 5 years, right? Because there are things that happen, and sometimes it even happens before the 5-year period elapses, because society changes. New technologies are introduced. The capacity for us to compete and grow also in and of itself pushes us to drive towards new frontiers, right? Every single system on the human planet needs to embody that change, right? So in a similar way, I think in all spheres of life, and it doesn't even necessarily have to be mandated by a government for you to do it, take the personal initiative to train yourself, to upskill, to learn new skills, to learn new ways to create, right? And I think the best thing that about this new Renaissance era is that it's reminding us that Leonardo da Vinci wasn't one thing, right? He was an artist, he was a mathematician, a physician, a polymath, right?
Yeah.
So right now, polymaths are eating good. Like they're the new generational experts. Why? They're good at doing so many things at a level where if they augment these capacities with some form of technology, then they become the best all-rounder in the world.
Yeah,
Oh,
it's
is that-
just.
is that
I
what
think it's
you
a
do, pharmacy and tech?
it's a call to be adaptable.
Yes.
Because it's an era filled with unpredictabilities, right? And this is what happens. I mean, we all have to go through these transitions. So it's just a question of how strategically positioned are you to capitalize on the opportunities that are available, right? So, I mean, AI was just a buzzword in 2020, 2021, right? Everybody was talking about ChatGPT, trying to generate some, videos with it. A few people were like, it's gonna fade away. I think when you look at the videos AI was generating over, Will Smith eating pizza. You remember that?
Yeah.
It was so
Slow.
sloppy. So some of the individuals looked and were like, if this is only 3-4 years worth of the work, give it 5 to 10 years and it will be really good. So I think I have to learn how to use it. Some of them looked at it and were like, ooh, this is really crap. Like, as a videographer, as an animator, I can do so much better. So I don't need to learn how to take
And the
advantage
funny
of
thing
AI.
is that the pace has even changed because it's no longer 5-10 years, right?
Eesh.
From the moment we saw the first, we saw Will Smith's video of
2022.
Terrible in
It was
2022, and now we have Higgsfield, right? We have these tools that are able to create, quite literally, make you a filmmaker from your bedroom.
Yeah.
And that's progress in the time span of 2 years.
2
right?
years, yeah.
So people really need
So
to
it's
think about the
accelerating.
capacity of the growth for technology, and also want in and of themselves to grow at the same rate.
But what do you think, Greg, will position Kenya to be one of those leaders in that growth? So we can be actual stakeholders and not only consumers of these AI tools.
Okay.
So like, because that's why I started with the angle of schools, because I think that's where it all starts from, because I can learn about AI and creation of AI tools from when I am starting school, or I can wait for me to start doing certifications after I've gotten to school. So after I'm done with school. So what do you think are the first steps that can just be, rolled out as soon as tomorrow? You say government basis or personal basis, but what do you think are those things that can be rolled out as soon as tomorrow to make sure that we are creators and not consumers of these AI tools?
Okay, all right. So you asked about Kenya. So in Kenya, the jump it's unique. It's unique. When I look at things in Kenya, there's what the government has done or has delivered in terms of we have good connectivity. People have freedoms. You can get online. You can learn a bunch of things. Let me just collect my bounty. Thank you.
That's why.
Let's go.
So, all right. There are the things that government has done, but a big mistake we often make in Kenya is that we see what the Western governments have done for their citizens, and then we expect that our government
We'll do the same.
even has the capability to deliver the same, innovation or delivery or whatever it is. This is what I've learned from being in the market for a while and running businesses. Business is what drives this economy. Right? It is what shapes everything that we have today. Okay? When you are using a service like Safaricom, that was not government. Initially, it started off as government. Government had a huge role to play there, but the innovation was driven by the private sector.
Yeah.
Okay. When you think about equity, as been mentioned here, and how they revolutionized banking, again, that was not driven by government. It was driven by enterprise.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. In fact, when you look at the West, a lot of their innovation and development is also equally driven by enterprise, by business. That is why you can't, even leaders in the West can't ignore the titans of industry in their countries. Mark Zuckerberg has access to the White House. Why? He's not a politician. He's not interested in politics. Same thing with Elon Musk and all the CEOs of the big companies. They have access simply because they hold such a huge part of their economy. They drive a huge part of their economy with the businesses that they run. So when you bring that back down, it reminds me of a quote. It's not what your country can do for you. It's what you can do for your country. Okay?
Yeah.
And we need to stop this selfish thing for ni mimi na watu wangu and me and my family, because a rising tide lifts all ships. Okay. What that means simply is if something is good for me, then most likely it's also good for others. Okay? If we all rise, then we're all better for it. Okay? So many times I've encountered people who have a brilliant idea, but they are so afraid of even talking about it because they fear someone will take my idea and run with it, or I'll start this business and then people will just copy it.
Yeah.
And that's the reality of business.
Okay.
Facebook were not the first social media platform.
They were just the best.
It wasn't MySpace.
It was High Five. High Five were people don't even know what the hell that is anymore.
Yeah.
Okay. But there were other platforms. Okay. They simply came and executed better. In fact, when Facebook started, it was only in colleges, in campuses. You had to be enrolled in a specific camp, and it wasn't even all of them. It was the elite ones.
Yeah.
So you and your community college somewhere were left out. And then they progressively opened it. So that strategy for exclusivity is what drove their growth. Everyone wanted, as in, so students would petition their school's administration
To
Get
them
us
money.
Facebook.
get us access.
Yeah.
So we need to start looking at, when you are considering entering this market, it's not so much what Gava is going to. Gava is not there to do
It is the
things.
actor.
Government is not mandated to put food on your table.
Yeah.
That's what I keep. I heard it somewhere once, and it has stuck with me for like 30 years. Government is not mandated to put food on your
It's
table.
just a structure of operation.
The government is supposed to keep you safe. Is there a war in Kenya? That's government's responsibility. They need to sort that out. Is there a disaster? Natural disaster? Government should definitely look at
Fix that.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I don't have a job.
That's up to you.
Oh, hell no. That's your problem. That's a you problem. Okay.
That's-
So,
okay.
and has government provided the frameworks and the environment for you to get a job? They have.
Have they told you where the future is so that you can take advantage of that?
They can
have.
try. Okay.
And
You see,
even if
one
they
like
aren't,
but the,
even if they aren't, the thing is, no one with a big briefcase that's titled Government of Kenya is coming to
come
stop
to-
you from
Yes.
trying.
Yeah.
Right?
you have access to the internet. The same internet others are making millions from.
Yeah.
The same internet you have.
And the government has
Yeah.
provided it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see, we need to stop this attitude of expecting the government to fix problems. The same way we're expecting AI to fix problems. We need to be the ones driving the solutions and then let government facilitate. And I'm not speaking, I'm not beholden to the government in any way. I'm not affiliated with them.
Okay.
When I was starting this digital with my co-founder, did we consider the government? Yes, we did. We're like, what are the plans you have and how can we plug into them? And after we evaluated the plan, we really couldn't identify
A place where you
specific
fit in.
place where we can fit in. So did that mean now we just retire and it's like, we tried?
It's the end of the
Government
road.
is the problem and we do nothing. Oh, we're like, okay, so that route didn't work, but we're still receiving a lot of requests for training. But who are the people who are requesting training? It's individuals, it's business people, it's students, it's our friends. Okay, so we started. And in the process of doing is when people realize, oh, we need so and so to, partner with us about a certain project, and then they come knocking.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's how you create value. You first demonstrate it,
Okay.
and then the opportunities will start to be evident for you. The students who are considering certifications, this is the one thing I want to caution about. I know education, especially higher education, is expensive and is inaccessible to many people. And there is also the notion, and me, I'm the old school millennials who, my parents were very big on education. All of us had to go to school. And if you started a course, you had to finish it. So things like, I went to campus and then I dropped out because I found my...
You found your
My
calling.
passion.
You drop out after you've graduated.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Now, there was this, during my time in campus, there was also, this big thing for Mark Zuckerberg dropped out, Bill Gates dropped out, but do we ever talk about the millions who actually graduated
And did
went on to do
something
great
impactful.
things?
Yeah.
There's something that education does, and that is that it instills in you critical thinking.
Yeah.
When I remember, like during our graduation ceremony, the vice chancellor would say, "And now I give you the power to read." It's like, what the hell? And it's like, I've been
So I've been
reading.
reading the whole
Yeah.
time.
Every
Yeah.
day. Yeah.
But I mean,
What it simply meant
Yeah.
is that now you have been empowered to read the market, to read the world,
Okay.
to do all these things, to analyze, and then figure out your path.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
So, what I would say to the students, I know I've said many things, but in a nutshell, is look at your specific space. your scenario. We talked about constraints in the beginning of our discussion. What are your constraints? And what are the things that are available to you? And figure your way out. How can you apply what you already have in your hands? The internet is available to you. How are you using it? Are you just watching reels and TikToks all day? Or are you finding a way to create a personal brand like we've seen millions do and eventually start making a living out of their personal brand? I know people, that's their entire play. That's it. They have a personal brand that they grew on social media, and now brands want them to push their products to their audience. And that's how they make money.
Yeah.
Okay, I'll ask a question even as we're close to winding up.
Who's next?
I'll play once I'm done asking you the question. So, Ted, do you feel like these ideas once they'll come a time where they'll be actually bankable, meaning that these financial institutions will say you have an idea of building this startup, or you have an idea of building this this big thing in your mind that is a unicorn, and so do you feel like there's a point in time where you'll get that you can go to a bank and say this is my idea, and in exchange for having not patents really, but do you feel like there's a point in time where we'll be able to exchange ideas for money so that you can get funding? Because you know that I think it's a bit difficult to get venture capitalists to buy into a startup, and I've seen founders struggle to find venture capitalists. Do you feel like there's a point in time it will come where financial institutions will be able to give capital to the founders who have ideas to just test them out?
Kadi.
Crazy.
Now good.
I'm waiting to destroy this one. Anyway, investment will never change its game. Every single person who is willing to put money on anything is looking for a return, right? So investors think the exact same way, and they'll continue to do so world over, right? So nothing about that game will change. You're about to win this game, sad. Nothing about that will change. So I think it's a misnomer that a good idea is a good product, right? That doesn't always equally translate.
That's true, yeah.
Good ideas are just that. They're good
just ideas, yes.
They need systems and processes and actual value that is imbued into them and turns them into a good product. And anytime, whether it's on Shark Tank or it's at your local bank, they're willing to put money on a good product that can sell. Why? The more you're able to scale, the larger the size of the market that you're able to reach. The larger the size of the market that you're able to reach, you're able to earn more from your margins, right? Which means more profit for you. Okay. That's always the way to think about any good startup, any good product. The capacity for you to be able to bring back money to people who are investing in you then creates an opportunity for you to be able to create good value propositions that are sellable.
Okay, so product over ideas.
Yes.
It's a product. Build
product
something.
Or solution, whatever you want to
Build
call it.
something before you go sell an
Build
idea.
something, yes.
Okay.
I think ideas, like we've said, ideas are worth nothing, to be honest. Let me just, you can laugh it out. Still.
Your answer one.
Oh, so I'm supposed to give an answer.
Yes.
Okay, give me a second to answer to that. Ideas are worth nothing. So let me give this fun fact. A good idea, like I've heard of, so I think Ted, we do this a lot. We always get a lot of people coming into this space. I have an idea, I want to do this. So one of the researches I like to refer to a lot was one that was done on what are the most important factors for determining startup success. You have factors like timing of the idea, the idea itself, the business model, the proposal, and the whatnots. And most interestingly, it was not the things which we think contribute to startup success that essentially contribute to startup success. So I think, in my opinion, a good idea is the one thing which will create a startup. And in this case, a startup is the machine that can either multiply the amount of money that you're given. So a good idea to me looks like I give you $1 and you can convert it to $2. That's a good idea because it multiplies So it's easy for you to lobby to get. And I think this is something people don't understand. They think angel investors are basically these individuals who sit down and are willing to take this massive risk on stuff they don't understand. These guys actually do, they understand what their game is. So the logic is, you trust this person, you trust the people he's working with, that if you give them this amount of money, they can actually keep their word and deliver the value they promised. That's the easiest way. So ideas that will get money and will continue to get money, the dynamics of that will never change. It's simply, if I give you $1, will you give me $2 in return? If yes, then I'll give you the money. And this was so interesting because yesterday, so through there's a program we ran, 8 weeks, right, on design thinking. And you have this incredible pitch decks, incredible ideas. And even myself, at the back of my brain, I'm thinking, I already know the two guys who are going to win. They had the most impressive pitch decks, the most interesting presentations. There was one team that I gave feedback the last minute, and I was like, you guys need to change this. And they took that seriously because that was specifically catering to their revenue model and how they would make money.
Okay.
Fun fact, that team was the one that actually won. Why? Because it caters to the immediate need of, yes, of course, you're going to be solving a problem. So startups are cash machines. Put in a problem and money and you're going to get a solution. For investors, startups are a cash machine where I put in my money and you give me you multiply the amount of money I have. So in the long run, I don't think that model will change. And it's the same reason why local investors don't invest here, because we don't have systems in place that will guarantee that if I give you $1, you'll give me $2 in return.
Okay, I like that idea that if you're trying to build a startup, focus on value, focus on multiplication of money, and focus on taking feedback very quickly and acting upon it. Yeah. I think sadly we're coming to the end, and I'll have one thing to say as we finish and we give our closing remarks. I hope that we will finish with winning, but let's see if we are able to do it in this last round of opinions. So Albania actually in 2025, this September 25, appointed an AI minister. Yes. I think it's called Dela, or I'm pretty sure I'm butchering that. But how then, what are your opinions on complete, and okay, the thinking was to reduce corruption, or that this AI minister, but do you feel like by AI seeping into government and what it means for people, is this an election of an AI minister, or is it, okay, it's appointment, so it's not democracy as the same as we would time it before. So what do we feel about AI seeping into things like government? And then what do we feel as the future will be if, AI got autonomous, like it got a complete system of, a complete government of a country being led by different AI ministers, an AI president, an AI prime minister, whatever you want to say, but what do we feel about the automation of AI completely and the seeping of AI into governance? I think we can just follow the order of Greg, then Ted, then Nick as we close off. Yes.
All right. So me, I think, first of all, I think it's a bit of a gimmick to say that it's an AI minister. Because at the end of the day, that AI still needs input. Still needs input from someone. And the decisions it makes still need to be executed by people, by someone. Okay. So I think, yes, Albania, what they did, and, it's very brave even of their president to go in that direction. And he received a lot of backlash from, other politicians, other leaders, but he still stuck to his guns and went forward. So time will tell whether the AI minister, I think it's Delia, is able to actually reduce corruption. Time will tell. But for now, I think everyone is watching and waiting to see.
Okay.
There's also a big in the entrepreneur space, like this exciting new challenge for a one-person unicorn. Essentially, a one-person business that is valued at over $1 billion, and whether anyone is able to pull that off using only AI tools and agents and employees. Now, I have seen examples of roles that have been fully automated. And people have run all kinds of experiments with varying degrees of success and failure. I've seen forex traders try to automate their trades using AI. Some have made money, others have been wiped out. Okay, so it's early days.
Okay.
It's very early days. As I don't think we are quite there yet for complete automation of everything that goes into there's just too much that goes into a business that requires a human's critical thinking and judgment. To just relegate to an AI tool that doesn't have full context and full awareness. So yeah, I think it's promising. Where I would like when in my business, I would rather apply AI in the areas that maybe I am not very strong in my areas of weakness, so that it strengthens those areas. But ultimately, I'm the one making the decisions. I'm still the one scanning the landscape, evaluating the reality of things on the ground, and then making the decision. And then AI is really my assistant. It's not my boss. It's not my CEO. I'm the CEO. And I'm deploying it in the areas where there's an inefficiency, or it's not my area of core strength. And I'm depending on it to execute on the things that also are repetitive and mundane that I don't want to deal with, so that I can focus on the strategic things like growing the business, attending meetings like this, talking to investors, talking to partners, and the many other things that a CEO does.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Ted.
I get where these solutions often tend to come from, right? I think world over we've seen a challenge with governance, especially where personal interest is concerned. And I don't know if that really goes away even with the installation of a system, an entity that's supposed to be purely objective, right? I still think that there's any level of fairness and unfairness in the world, and I don't think this directly solves that. I think this is at best a band-aid. But again, we just have to lie and wait, right? In doing so, we're going to see how effective this is a solution will be in curbing this grand issue, because I think it wouldn't be the first time that this has been mentioned. Even we've ourselves grappled with the idea of maybe we just have an automated system and then procurement will get better for our country. EGP was rolled out and that's been a mess of itself, right? Because at the core of the problem, it's humans. It's humans and our self-interest, right? And our capacity to pursue all lengths to get to what we want to achieve.
Yeah.
So until we find,
sabotage.
including sabotage, right? And it's up until the point where we're able to solve for that we begin to see actual human progress. But I don't want us to be wary of technology in general. I want us to embrace this.
Yeah.
And it's in the same way that this is what I'd like to call a millennial project. Remember those old Gothic chapels, the ones that took multiple generations to build, 4 sometimes 5.
400 years.
That your great-grandfather, your great-great-great-grandfather laid the first foundational stone, and it will be the responsibility of the great-great-great-grandson to put in the keystone, right?
Yeah.
So we need to think about this as one of those, a generational project that won't just change the trajectory of how we build societies, but the fundamental identity of human beings.
Yeah.
So as we continue to develop and grow technology, humans also change. So I think we wait until, and we see who we are in this postmodern society.
Okay.
I think the only one concern I'll probably front is this. I hope the person behind this infrastructure is not corrupt, right? Because then if they are corrupt, then things will actually go really, really south. It
just accelerate
it could
the
probably, it probably narrows the access gap so that a few individuals become more corrupt than the rest of the individuals. So then that probably means it could become the greatest hoax of all time, perpetrated by a few individuals in the name of AI. Otherwise, if the intent is as good as they purport it should be, then I think they're on track to achieving something really good. But at the end of the day, it's just a system. It can go only as far as you tell it to go.
Yeah.
So in the long run, I think, yes, they have an so I mean, they're basically saying it's able to manage contracts and basically dishing out of contracts to ensure it's very fair, not a chosen minority who are probably not qualified, which is a big challenge we have in our own country, for instance, just to mention. So if that is probably helpful to the degree in which they've extended that type of infrastructure, but in the long run, it will need to evolve. That evolution needs a lot of prompting still. Again, for me, I'm still skeptical about it, because it's like, so for how long are we going to have people of goodwill? If, for instance, this is, it's incentivized by someone of goodwill, maybe the president's of goodwill, and it's like, we have to cut corruption at all costs. How long are we going to have people of goodwill in power?
And with change in power.
Yeah. So it could take both swings, but in my opinion, just as AI has extrapolated the number of, smart people and, not the so smart people, it's also going to do the same thing when you have good leaders and bad leaders. It gives more power, fast execution capacity, just for the same basic human beings that we are. So if your intention is bad, you're going to have it serve you to the best of that intention. So it's just a lot of food for thought, but I think it's a good incentive, give or take.
Okay.
It's a good incentive.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, for what the future of AI is in governance or in full automation, we wait and see. But in the now, as you've had, apply yourself, adapt. Thank you so much, Greg, for making time. Thank you, Ted, for making time. Thank you, Nick, for joining us. And thank you to AXA Africa for organizing such a forum. This has been the AI in Tech Roundtable, and I have been your moderator and host, Bridget Lukamusango. Have yourself a lovely rest of your time. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nani yako kadi?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can finish.
Who's next?
Now, you already picked a card.
You did?
No, it's you.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.